Hello, world, and to the kingdom citizens. I greet you in the precious holy name of Yeshua HaMashiach, Yeshua Messiah, who said in John 8:32, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Hi, I'm Dr. John Curry, and welcome to the embassy of the kingdom of heaven on earth. If you want to follow this podcast, please subscribe to JC Global Embassy TV1. Ring the bell and hit the thumbs up button. Today's message that I will be dealing with today, and I trust God that it will bless you, and this message is for Black parents only. Yes, that's what I said, for Black parents only. And we're going to be looking at what we need to pass on to our children. The Word of God tells us in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, it says, "Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." So the question is that many of us as Blacks have is, what do we tell our children? What do we tell our children about our existence in the world? And what do we tell our children about our struggle that we're facing even today? Well, I think we must tell our children that we love them. Our children need to know that we love them, no matter if they are blue-black, light bright, or even mulatto white. They need to know that their parents are madly in love with them. We must tell our children about our struggle for freedom in Africa and America and throughout the world diaspora. Our children need to know about our role in history. They need to know what we have done, what we've accomplished, and what we're yet to do. Our children need to know our story, the story from 1619 through Americas, and now that we're here, they need to know that journey. They need to know that struggle. Our children need to know about our place in history. Who were we before we came to America? What did we do? What did we accomplish? And why did we accomplish it? You see, as the clock of destiny continues to tick and tock throughout all of history, we must never forget our suffering as we remind our children of our place in the world. We must tell our children that as Blacks, we gave the world humanity. Let me say that one more time. As Blacks, we gave the world humanity. As first man, first woman, first family, first nation, and first builders of ancient world civilization. We must tell our children our homeland is in Africa. Now that's the Greek name for Africa. It was given by a man, one of the conquerors, named Africana. But our true name is right here. That's the original name, and that name is Alkebulan. That's the land of the Blacks. We must tell our children that we was great men and women long before the Europeans came. We must tell our children our homeland is a place where everybody, even to this day, go in order to cause their countries and their nations to exist. It's important to tell our children that we are the descendants of great men and women. Men like Imhotep. And he's another one on my shirt, Imhotep. Imhotep was a great man, not a mediocre Black man. He was a great Black man. Imhotep was a multi-genius. Some of his greatest accomplishment was that he was an astronomer. He was an architect. Imhotep was a physicist as well as a physician. He was a philosopher and poet, and he's the one that was a part of the third dynasties of the 31 dynasties. Imhotep did great work in the dynasties. He's the one that built step pyramids, and those ancient step pyramids was built by the great man. Fact about it, Imhotep was the first doctor on the planet. They called him the medicine god. He was a great man. And he was during the time of in Egypt from 2200 BC. Yes, his name is Imhotep. So you see, we came from people from Alkebulan. That's this part of my shirt, Alkebulan, the land of the blacks. And we had great men, and one of them is Imhotep. We must tell our children about King Mansa Musa, who was worth more than $400 billion. King Mansa Musa was a brilliant master strategist. He was a businessman, and his business was basically in gold and salt and ivory. He was the first one to ever put his monies to help build the first world university. And the first world university would make Harvard, Yale, Princeton look like kindergarten. Because he built the first world university, not just in the University of Timbuktu, but the University of Sankore. The first world university where many great minds came. And this was in one of our empires called the Empire of Mali. Great world universities. And the university focus of study was astronomy, mathematics, history, medicine. It had over 100,000 students. 100,000 students with 25,000 professors. Some of those who attended the University of Timbuktu Sankore. Now check this list out. These are some great philosophers that attended the University of Timbuktu. And note here, they didn't get their degree in 4 years. They had to wait for 20 years before they could master a subject. They was learning things dealing with the astronomy and dealing with physics and dealing with philosophy, dealing with all those great things long before many other nations was going to space. University of Timbuktu had eyes on the galaxies, studying all kinds of things. The men that came to University of Timbuktu came from Greece and some came from Europe. Fact about it, they didn't even think that they were smart until they graduated from the University of Timbuktu. Men like Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Euripides, and Aristophanes all had to bow to the knee of black men and women at the University of Timbuktu Sankore, University of Timbuktu. This is important for our young black students to know that when they tell you can't do math, just say your forefathers invented math. When they say you can't do calculus, just tell them your forefathers invented calculus. When they tell you can't do physics, just remind them none of that would be in existence if it wasn't for black Africans who came from the continent of Alkebulan. Great men and women began the educational system that is now all over the world. The University of Timbuktu is the first and oldest black university, and it still exists. In some parts of Mali, they still have remnants of it. When the great, so-called great people came over from Britain, they came in and stole all of the documents, stole a lot of the books. But what they did not know is that the great minds had hidden books and hidden scrolls and hidden all kind of material 6 feet under the ground. And some say even 8 feet. So when they came in, they got some things, but they didn't get everything. So all the work that took place in the University of Timbuktu, they're still going through and trying to read the languages, even as I'm speaking. So tell your young black boys and black girls that they came from great stock, that they're brilliant, that they can be anything they want to be, that nothing can stop them. They need to know it was their forefathers are the first ones that invented education, scripts, written scripts, manuscripts, all of those things, while other groups of people were still practicing cannibalism and living in caves. We must tell our children that we came from greatness and that greatness is still within us. It's in our DNA. We must tell our children about Makeda. Makeda, Queen of Sheba, that the Bible talks about. Makeda is in the Bible. Queen of Sheba. We must tell our children about King Hannibal, Shaka Zulu, and Queen Cleopatra of Egypt. All of our history that our children need to know is right in the Bible. If as parents, you would read to your children the Bible, and you would read them words such as Ethiopia and Egypt, and when you read words such as the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Girgashites, all of those are black people, the Canaanites. We're all through the Bible. So if you want your children to know their history, go to the Bible. Don't believe what everybody is saying, that the Bible is the white man's book and somehow the Quran is the black man's book. No, the Quran came out of the Bible. The Bible is the original book about black people and their history. We must tell our children, if they want to know more about their history, they need to go into the Word of God, go into the Bible, and do word studies on their history. And they will be blown away to know that the Word of God, the Bible, is all about our history. So yes, we must tell our children. We must tell our children that they was brought to America by white Christian Europeans. From the African shores of Goree Island to West Senegal, and sold to the continent, 7 continents all over the world. Our children need to know that they wasn't just sold. Our forefathers wasn't just sold to the Americas, but they were sold to Europe, Britain. They were sold to the 7 continents of the world. There are remnants of us all over the world. Fact about it, our numbers are 240 million of us in the diaspora. 240 million of us. We must tell our children that when they go to China, don't be shocked when they see Afro-China. Don't be shocked when they see Afro-Brazil. Don't be shocked when they see Afro-Europe, Afro-Asian. We're everywhere. Our children need to know that they came from brilliant men and women. We're on the continent, 7 continents of the world. We must tell our children that. It was in the year of 1619, our forefathers worked for 400 years in the Americas. And now we just moved past 2020, which makes, moved past 2019, which makes 400 years. Now we're in 2020 and we have yet received any form of reparation for the 400 years that we labored in this country. And we know it's 244 years of actual slavery, 100 years of old Jim Crow. But then when you add into integration and all of the traumas that we've been dealing with over the last 400 years of reparation that America, and not just America, but the world owed to us. Our children must be a part of our struggle. Our children must know that they are involved in this ancient, old, bloody struggle that continues even to this day. We must tell our children that we are the only group of people that did not voluntarily come to America. Your son and daughter need to know that. We didn't voluntarily come to America. We came to America through forced migration. Well, what does that mean? That means that we're in America as prisoners of war. Forced migration. We are the only group of people who have non-immigrant status. And we're still fighting for things that we should have if, in fact, we was true citizens of America. Yes, we must tell our children that as blacks, we are the most resilient people on the planet. No one can endure what we have endured already. No one could take what we've taken. No one could be on slave ships at close to 292 people, men separated from women and being raped and molested. Men, women, and children being raped and molested. And yet we're still here. No one could take the suffering that we've taken because God is on our side. Our children need to know about our suffering, and they need to know with the suffering comes redemption. We must tell our children that God is truly on our side and that no matter who's against us, if God be for us, and we know he is, who can be against us? Yes, we must tell our children that we love them and that they are needed in the struggle. I think many times parents does not pass on to their children how they are needed in the struggle, that they're expected to be good, that they're expected to achieve. I can recall growing up, my mother would tell me from time to time, she said, boy, you got to be somebody. You know, as a child, you think you're already somebody, but she said, you got to be somebody, that you got to want to do something with your life. So we must tell our children that they're needed in the struggle and that they got to be somebody. Our children need to know that they must love their people. Yes, we hear about a lot of murders in the community. We hear a lot about a shooting and a lot about gang banging and all of these things. And we know that some of that is part of what has happened to us, as well as what has happened in us. Our children need to know that what happened to us and in us shouldn't continually cause us to kill each other and to hurt each other. We need a new generation coming up that will know the truth about who we are while we're wrestling through these 400 years of post-traumatic slave syndrome. Many of us are just having all kinds of things that's happening. Many young people, young kids, 6, 7 years old and seen murders already. 6, 7 years old and seen mothers and fathers fighting. They've seen murders in the house. They walk outside, they see murders outside. And everywhere our children go, they see some type of violence. And now we've been dealing with these paddy wagons, all of these paddy wagons, dealing with these paddy rollers riding in paddy wagons. And that simply means white, racist plantation patrol cops. Yes, America is plantation America. And our children have already seen it. They've seen our men die on the street like dogs. They've seen our women also die on the street like dogs. All of this is happening with those paddy rollers, riding in those paddy wagons, looking for what they think are runaway slaves. Want to control black men and black women so the next generation will grow up with fear. But I say no. The next generation, and I say to you right now, the generation that's already present have already said, freedom or die. We're at that point in America and throughout the world. There's no longer to live if you're already dead. I mean, you every time you look up, somebody getting murdered and on the camera, social media murder, social media lynching. So our children need to know that they're needed in this ancient, old, bloody struggle for freedom. Our children must be told that it's okay to buy black, support black, be black. Never, ever be afraid of black, because you can't truly love others until you love your black self. Little boys and little girls need to know you don't have to try to lighten up your skin. If you blue black, embrace it. If you got kinky hair, embrace it. You got thick lips, embrace it. Whatever you are, embrace it. Why? Because the whole world is trying to look like you. They love your culture, but they hate you. They want to look like you, but they hate you. So what do we tell our children? As parents, we must tell our children to love themselves. And not only tell them to love themselves, but we must love them harder now than we ever done before. Finally, we must tell our children, especially the ones that people like to pick on. You heard me say the dark-skinned ones, because now we are still wrapped up in the conundrum of colorism. The lighter the skin tone, the greater the privilege. Our children need to know the darker you are, the stronger you are. The stronger your DNA is. The darker you are, the stronger your DNA is. The reason why our children are being searched while walking down the street, can't go through the mall because little black boys and little black girls are being searched is because they are afraid of you. White parents and white police officers and white people in general are just afraid of you. You're thinking it's because of the skin that you live in. No, they're afraid of your DNA. Everything a black man touches becomes black. And in just a few more years, maybe a few more decades, we may not see as many white people as we're seeing. So they're building up walls. They're locking us up. They're killing us. Our children need to know the real story, that this is real. That when your little son walks down the street, your little daughter, they're terrified of you. And the reason why many are terrified of you is not because of who you are, it's what you carry. You carry the dominant gene, and they carry the recessive gene. In order for them to survive, they got to do everything in their power to get rid of black, especially black and brown people. Our children need to know. They need to know what this struggle is about. They need to know so they can learn how to fight in this ancient struggle that we've been in. So finally, not only do our children need to know all of these things, but we must tell our children that they must work twice as hard. I don't know if they say that too much today, but when I was growing up, you had to work twice as hard, study twice as hard, and long. You couldn't be equal to whites. You had to be much, much, much better than whites to even get an interview. We must tell our children the true story. We also must tell our children not to accept mediocrity and always strive for excellence. Let their word be their bond and understand that time is valuable and move in excellence. And as they move in excellence, our children must know that they must use education for black liberation. Education for black liberation. No one, our children need to be told by black parents, no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to rescue you. And even though we have this protest where it seems like it is the rainbow coming together and everybody on one accord, but when the dust settles, our children need to know that they must have self-determination for self-liberation. And when they can move in that, they can welcome anyone that wants to be a part. They must not be deceived thinking that because all of these colors are coming in, and Asians, blacks, whites, and Hispanics, and they still must be self-sufficient. Our children must know that we cannot wait on people to come and rally to save us, that we're not a weak people. We can stand on our own. Our children need to know that what the white man need to do is to give us reparation and get out of our way. We've done it once. We can do it again. Our children need to know that they don't need pity. All they need is divine justice in America, and we can take care of the rest. What do we tell our children? We must tell our children that the baton is passed and that they must do their part in this ancient relay race for black freedom in America and throughout the world. And they must know that we expect them to win. We must tell our children the great words of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, that as blacks, we should never ask for our place, nor beg for our place, but make and take our place. When we do that, we will be moving in the framework of our ancient ancestors and forefathers. We will be able to remind the world who we was, who we are, and who we yet to become in this ancient struggle for freedom in Africa, the 7 continents of the world, and especially in America. So what do we tell our children? We tell our children the truth about our struggle in America. I trust that you can receive what has been said, and I trust that you can tell your little boys and little girls that they're needed in the struggle, that everything they learn should be about liberating us as a Black people. God bless. Until next time.